What's up, Rockstars? Future Michael here. I am on part 2 now of my Elden Ring unboxing. So the video you just clicked on, this one is nothing but miniatures, and a ton of them, along with the storage of them, some critique of them, some talk about SFG and their miniature making process and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of detail in here and a lot of very, very cool minis to look at, both things I'm happy about, things I think they could improve as they mature the process even farther than they already have. But overall, this is just mini. So if you're looking for the actual like game part of it, then that is in the first unboxing link down below. It's like 20-ish minutes, while this one's like over an hour. So again, lots of minis to go over, and I do kind of obsess over it. So yeah, hope you're comfortable, grab a drink or whatever, and let's get to it. All right, so we got those ugly cards out of the way, and you know, I'm hoping the minis are good. I haven't really looked at them. Literally, I just like pulled them out, so I haven't really seen like in detail them. And of course, the last I saw of them on the campaign was renders. But I mean, between the kind of, you know, blah whatever this is and the kind of dark lackluster cards, I'm hoping for some really cool minis at least. And I suspect SFG has delivered. Now, this is a huge box, so I'm gonna like try and shoot. How am I gonna do this? All right, I'm gonna tip it. Oh, look at that, I can see in there. All right, so we got, let me take some of these out. Are they like locked in on the rim? Oh, they are. Okay, all right, I might have to show that. Okay, here. All right, so here they are. I know it's all dark in there, but I'm sure you can hopefully still see, maybe. Anyway, yeah, so reach in here. When you pull this out, now it's all kind of loose. Either way, around the rim here, it is a little tight there, I feel. And it's to like lock in. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll have to look at them more. Maybe the ones that are in this gigantic box. By the way, super inconvenient to reach all the way into this. I get it, and I know people like one big box and all that kind of stuff. Sure, whatever. But gosh darn, is like 2 feet wall of box and a dark. These are all the same. And a dark interior, kind of difficult to actually interact with. Okay, all right. Let's look at the hero minis, the ones that you'll be controlling. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here, just so you guys can see it. There we go. Hopefully I stay in frame. If not, yell at me, but it'll be past me. Future me won't be able to help past me either. So I'm gonna move my lighting ever so slightly to the back, which should increase the lighting a little bit. There we go. There we go. Okay, that should look a little bit better, hopefully. All right. Now, looking at this guy, yeah, I can already tell the detail is going to be really, really good. So, sculpted base, and by sculpted, I mean mostly texture. There's not anything crazy going on here. This rock here, a little bit of topography, honestly pretty good. It just means nobody's like on a hill or like on a rock formation or something crazy, right? They're just kind of sitting there. They are separate from the base, which I appreciate. That typically helps. So this one almost looks like it's not. It looks like it's almost just this leg is. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think it is. It's just really, really close, which is, I mean, that's what you want, right? To not even know what's separate and what's not. But yeah, the texture here looks really great. Love it. In fact, even the rim around the base is actually quite clean. There's a little bit right there, right? But it's not like sticking on or anything like that, and it's kind of towards the back. I'll see if they all are like that or not, but overall, pretty good. The weapon, you can tell this is an ABS PVC mix, and the reason is because it's not as shiny as straight ABS would be. However, it is a little shiny, and PVC is typically, this actually, the bottom, this is all ABS. You can see how shiny that is? That's ABS there. Whereas he, I believe, is a mix between the two. You can do the injection molding the exact same way as for both of them. So it's just some custom mix to make it kind of nicer. But it means this is still quite straight, and yet also quite skinny. So this flexibility comes from the PVC, and the ABS makes it to where it's not some melted mess that's like garbage, and you have to make like really thick. This is great. I love the half drawn parts. You get a little bit of the blade here. If you were to paint this, it would look fantastic because you got the scabbard part here. You have like a little tie thing here. You have a little bit of the blade and then the hilt. And you can see where you put the rest of his second hand there. Just a really cool pose in general. The armor is really cool. I love the layers. Texture looks nice. Even this little intricate work here. Actually pretty good for a board game mini. Same with the tie off here. Assembly pretty good. You can see there's a little separation there and there. But it's right where the armor kind of separates anyway. Maybe not this one. But at least this one is like all good. So either way, looks great, nice and separate here because these are two separate pieces, right? So it's like him, probably all one piece, right? That's why he's kind of like flat on the X-plane there, right? So he can be sandwiched in the mold. These were separate and then put onto the torso. Looks great, and that's what gives you this gap here and stuff like that. The little inlet here where you can see his nose ridge and his eyes, very, very cool to see as well. All right, so that's him. We'll go to this one here, kind of a much different one. Again, this is pure ABS. Do you see how much more snap that gives versus this? See? Much more flexible, much more sturdy. Pure ABS here, and that's why it's so much shinier as well. And it makes it just look fantastic, of course, also. So really, really cool to see. The robe looks good. There's a nice separation between the robe and the shield here. Whatever this thing is, looks cool. Love the wrapped eyes. Always a fan of that. It's kind of like a near automata kind of thing. Is it automata? I never know. Either way, pretty cool. Hair looks nice. Even the sleeves, there's a little inlet there, which looks great. Part of that's because of the ABS nature. Just looks fantastic. You can tell that they're willing to put the money where they need to. I'm going to zoom out ever so slightly, just so I don't get out of camera for you guys. And that's what the ABS is. It means they're targeting exactly where they need to put the money to make the mini look good. I spoke too soon. So here's Droopy Sword Guy number 1. Yeah, obviously a little bit thicker, right? Thicker than you would think. Thicker than even this one, actually. So a very thick blade. PVC, ABS mix, and that just made it kind of droopy, right? As opposed to making it a little bit skinnier and making it ABS. Would have cost more, but also would have looked better. So you can do the hot water treatment, which is where you get like steamy hot water, doesn't have to be boiling, and then a bowl of water with like some ice in it, some ice cold water. And then what you do is you warm up the mini. You can also even do it under like running hot water. You just got to be careful of your hands. Shape it to where it needs to be, and then dip it into the cold, and that'll soften the plastic enough to be bendable. And then when you can essentially freeze it, right, by cooling it off into place. And that's how you fix these kind of droopy sword stuff. But either way, much thicker than I would have liked. It doesn't look sharp at all from this side. It looks okay from this side. The shield looks awesome. I love that. It's not very thick either. In fact, it may be thinner than his sword, which says a lot about his sword and his shield. If the shield's thinner, basic kind of metal one here with the little rivets there look great. He's holding it quite well. All of his fingers are there. I don't see any like morphing or anything like that. Inside the cloak, all of this is fantastic. You can see his legs sculpted in there too, so that looks great. Again, the bases are super good. Facial feature wise, look. Well, I don't know. Is this? It almost looks like. I think he has a wrap over his mouth. However, yeah, I see it now. So it's really soft right here, so it's kind of hard to see the line here. On here, you can see the line a little bit better. So he has it covering up to essentially his eyebrows, and then all the way down to like right beneath his nose is this wrap. But it almost looks, because it's not very thick either, like it would just be his face and his mouth is just missing. Kind of odd there. Once you paint it, it should be okay, but I would have thickened that detail a little bit just to make it a little bit more obvious. That's not just his face without a mouth. I'm not really seeing any crazy mold lines or anything like that. You can see a tiny little bit there, but otherwise pretty good. There is a little bit of scuff right here. I don't know what that's about. Not quite sure, but either way, there's a little bit there. Cape looks good, like that, or cloak or whatever. And yeah, the armor little details and stuff, all that looks great too. So just need to kind of tighten that up a little bit. Maybe paint it to look a little bit nicer, but there you go. And then the fourth and final one, at least here in the core game, is this guy here. And again, they went with ABS on here because it's unsupported for so long on either side. That's typically the decision, but not always. Only connected really from here, and yet it looks great. Looks like really, really good. Tiny bit of a mold line here on top, so now I do see it a little bit there. This is straight across, but it's also textured, not just super flat, so it'll actually look good when painted instead of like kind of questionable, and it's all on the bottom. He does have a little bit of the, and sometimes they do this, and I don't think it's on purpose. I might be a little triggered because I see so many that do this, where the texture is on the front and the back, and then right underneath them is like nothing, right? Instead, he's on this like kind of perfectly parallel rock formation here, right? That makes it almost look like he's kind of highlighted there, but I don't think he quite is. Anyway, a little tiny shield there. Good luck blocking anything with that, but you know, whatever. Assembly looks good. Again, the mold line probably a bit more on this one than some of the other ones. I can see it there as well. But yeah, otherwise, looking really good. Nice and smooth cloak. Even has a little bit of that ridge here, even right here. So it doesn't look too thick. It looks like it comes to a point. Yeah, overall, well designed. Very nice. I like it. All right, then we have our first enemy here. And already taller. I mean, welcome to a Dark Souls kind of game where all the enemies are like 7 feet tall or more. Textured base, quite different than them. They have a little bit of a tile set going on here. The armor, great. You can hear some of that texture there. Very cool. Very crisp texture there. Looks great. The fur here looks good too. Very separate from the chainmail. Even the small ones here look good. Assembly is great there on the helmet. I'm thinking this is probably a mold line here. A little obvious, especially for the side of the foot there. Yeah, right here too. So kind of gnarly mold lines compared to a lot of the other games these days. But yeah, we'll see kind of how that continues. The sword going through the hair a little bit here. Nice touch. I really like that. I think that looks cool. And the sword itself looks awesome. It does come to a pretty good point. So even though it's quite thick, it looks pretty sharp. And honestly, at that size, they do need to be a little thick too. You can see that mold line continue on the side, so all the way up here, right? So yeah, kind of crazy in the mold lines, but otherwise, a little pouch there with the little flap and all that. I mean, a little texture detail here. Pretty good detail. And nice mold design as well. And some smart upgrades. I think the mold lines almost are probably the biggest negative here, really. Even like, you know, droopy sword guy #1, I can fix that. Mold lines are a little bit more annoying to fix. But that is everything in that bottom tray. I'm just going to move these guys over to the side. But we do have other trays. So let's go and... So let's go on and take a look at those. So we have a little tray here with some guys there. As you can see, there's nothing necessarily locking them in. Well, okay, see? So I think not only did they do the lock, but it's not even good enough to keep the guys in there because that guy fell out. Ah, yeah. Yeah, so they definitely... Do you see that tightness there? This is kind of what I meant, where obviously there's a little bit of a ridge. In fact, you can kind of see it. Let me see if I can't. Right there. Do you see this right here? What this bulge here and here and here are to do are to grip the base to kind of keep them from coming in. The alternative is to have these lids not be straight, right? But instead have them form into the mini itself, which I think costs a bit more perhaps, and maybe it's a savings thing. I'm not exactly sure. What I do know is that while this keeps them in there sort of kinda, it's still not a great job, but what it does a great job at is grinding away painting. So if you were to paint this guy, and you'll probably paint the rim of his base, and then you put him in and out because you love this game and you play it all the time. It's your favorite game ever. That's gonna rub away against the paint, and you will get wear marks on your painted rims. This will do this to pretty much every single mini you put in here over time. Varnishing can help somewhat, but honestly, like friction is friction, especially from something like plastic. What some people do that are painters is they'll get a hair dryer even, or a heat gun, and soften this plastic and mold it back. You can also take a knife and literally cut along this to get it to not to... Sorry, I'm off the camera. to cut these bumps off or soften them up and push them out, right? Either way, you can do that, but then they're going to be totally loose because they just have these flat ones. So better to support painters by getting these molded, or at least a divot in there to kind of press on its head. That way, all it's really doing is just touching, as opposed to, you know, grinding in and out as you put it in. But anyway, let's go and take a look at these. Looks like you get 6 of these. Now, I did notice pushing them in and out, they are a little loose here because they're so skinny there. Now, you're just playing as miniatures, it's fine, you can move them around, no problem. But when you do push them in, you do kind of have to put some effort into this. And so, I actually feel a little bit of bend there when you do that, which is kind of funny. All right, take a look. Let's take a look. All right, so again, pretty large, right? I mean, here's this person sitting here, and even... like, if they were standing straight up, they'd be taller, right? I mean, their weapon's almost the size of you, which, again, fits, I think, Elden Ring IP quite good. This might be a little too light now that I have the gray minis here. So let me dim these lights just a tad to not make it quite so robust. All right, there we go, because I want to make sure you see the detail here. Okay, so face wrapped here. Looks like there's one little eye socket here. The eye is sculpted there just slightly. It's not a very crisp eye, but it's definitely there. I can see it. As long as you paint it in, I think it's enough to paint pretty well. Then you're good there. Mold line coming across the cross of the chest and onto the arm makes for quite a gnarly spot here where it meets. I'm assuming that one of the runners came in here, or between the molds, right? That's where the plastic was then injected into it. That would be my assumption there. Right there on the arm there. Kind of unfortunate. Let's see. All these tassels are good. The wrinkles in the cloak are fantastic. It looks great. The little ridges in his skinny body look good. Layers of geez, this is a bendy guy. Look at that. It's almost posable. That looks good. It's not too thick because it comes to a point and then thickens up. That's smart. That's good for other sculptors to do. His feet are really gross. His toes are split like a hand. That's disgusting. I love it. This right here, this whole thing seems bent. And in fact, I can see it's probably been through a little bit because right here, it's actually a little bit wider than I think it normally would. And that's from it being bent and stuff. So just extremely skinny. Probably would have benefited at least this arm here, though they made it one sculpt. So this is kind of the design process you have to go through and why it's so difficult, why you need to have conversations. So when I do consult, it's often about this kind of stuff. If you could cut this to make it ABS so that this is his arm and this nice and crisp. It's not bent at all. It'll be great. However, you're literally introducing a part you don't need because he prints just fine. He's very static, right? And so it's do you do that or do you make it all ABS and just eat the cost or what? Because the ABS plastic is a certain magnitude more expensive. Now, not as much as hips, but it's still more expensive, right? And so just some of the designs like that, you have to decide. Overall, I think, especially for a club, it's okay. And I think I may have mostly done that, or it did because it's all, bent out of shape. Because these other ones actually look a little bit straighter, but I do suspect that they will get bent over time. You can see this one's bent here as well a little bit. So either way, pretty cool. Again, I like the basing. The basing's the same on each one. I have seen companies, I think Monolith did this with some of theirs, where the bases were there were 5 different bases and they alternated which base was in there. So you saw the bases over and over again on different enemies, but at the same time, they're not all the exact same base. It kind of helps differentiate them a little bit without actually changing the sculpt too much. And these are all single sculpts anyway. Not too bad. So yeah, it just depends. Overall, I'm okay. They don't need to have separate ones. Okay, we got some big ones there. I'm going to save the big ones. So let me go reach here to another tray. All right, so we got a tray here of 3 different kinds. Again, 6 each. So just 3 sculpts. I'm just going to show you the 3 and just know you get multiple. I will say there is a little bit of damage here. As you can see, this has been flipped up. And honestly, it's because these trays are fine. I like that they're black. They're not crinkling, but they are kind of skinny. In fact, you can almost hear a crinkle. Right? A little bit of flex there. So not the thickest I've seen, but also not like garbage where you push into them either. I've only seen a few of those. Honestly, this is probably about average, I would say. All right, let's start with the rat. We'll start with the one that already fell out, but again, it's all pressure on the rim, so that's going to grind that off. I do see this one isn't quite as clean. Actually, it does have a little... Okay, it's actually more visual than anything. It's actually pretty flush. I think they did trim these, which is kind of nice. That's not always the case. Connection point's really good. It's all connected on, I think, every single piece plus the tail, perhaps. Nope, tail's separate. So the tail is separate there. Right away, I do see that mold line. Again, the mold lines are kind of a lot on this compared to a lot of the other ones. Nothing like crazy or too terrible, but definitely kind of difficult. And with the softness of this plastic, it's going to be a little bit harder to clean up and have it really look good, but it'll look better than the mold line. Sculpting wise on the base, this is actually a really good one. I like the topographical change here. You have these little inlets here that are kind of hard to tell on the base plastic. So when you're just looking at this, it pretty much just looks like a crazy rat, right? But then when you paint it and you paint these like nasty boils and junk, it's going to really, really show that, hey, these little divots in there are there, and it's disgusting. The ears look fantastic. This mold line, however, goes across the face here and then up the front of the face and then down the back. So literally right when you're looking at the face, you see this very obvious mold line kind of right there, which is a bit unfortunate, right there on the tooth even as well. That's the focal point of the mini. It's what you're looking at, and it's definitely what you notice. Having it go around or somewhere else would have been nice. I get that it's difficult to necessarily sculpt this in a way to where the mold that comes together is okay, but either way, it is a little bit of a bummer that much of a line is showing. You want to be careful cleaning that up because it is around the face, and it's what a lot of people are going to be looking at. Otherwise, inside the mouth, I'm a little disappointed there as well because it is completely flat. There is no texture inside the mouth, which, I mean, I'm going to paint it, it'll be fine, but it almost looks like a cartoon mouth. A little bit of ridges here would have gone a long way to make it look like, you know, the inside of a mouth as opposed to just bare plastic. In fact, even the teeth here, right, they don't stick out like really past that, and so then you have this like flatness in between you're going to have to paint, which is going to look kind of odd here. Let me try and get a little bit closer there so you can see what I'm talking about right here. So that's actually going to be a little difficult to paint cleanly, and again, you got that mold line going straight across from it there. A little bit of a bummer. All right, next up we got these wolves here, and yeah, they look great, which is good. I would have been disappointed. I love wolves, and these look fantastic. They're not too big. A lot of people put like big wolves. In fact, even the main wolf from Dark Souls, really, really thick wolf. This one's very lean, very skinny, but in a good way. It looks healthy. It doesn't look like it's a fat one at the zoo or something. Let's see here. Sculpt-wise, overall pretty good. There is a mold line again right down the middle there, but I think it's actually more hidden here than otherwise. It does look like there might be a little bit of sculpting inside of the mouth as well. Nothing crazy, but a little bit goes a long way. The fur looks great. I'll say that right now. There's a little bit of softness here in the fur. I'm not sure what's going on here or why it's so soft. It's like really crisp here, and I'm sure you can see that. Really crisp here, and then like just soft details here. This happens sometimes because of the mold, and they have to tighten up that mold a little bit. And so typically, yeah, see, it's really soft here. I've done this before. I did this with Primal from Edgy Games, for instance, where we went back after even getting the original ones, but like, hey, this is a little soft here. Can we get these details trimmed up a little bit? And they can, but it requires a back and forth, which again costs time, costs money. So it depends on how much money you're willing to put into this, really, which ultimately is miniatures in general. You get what you pay for typically, and you can pay a little bit and just accept everything they do in the factory, which is always garbage, or you can pay quite a bit and do this back and forth thing. And they're probably somewhere in the middle. There's obviously some things I would have pushed back on like this, but overall fairly okay. Around the mouth is a little soft as well. Now I think that's fine for the fur, but I feel that softness kind of goes to a non-crisp nose. It could also be because it's near the mold line. Sometimes the detail is hard to really define at the mold line. It gets a little soft there too, but yeah, overall, I'm actually quite happy with this. And I think it'll still paint up great. But honestly, this hair, if it had been crisp like this, you could have dry brushed the whole thing. A dry brush won't make this look super great, I think. I'm kind of worried about the wash dry brush when it comes to actually painting this. I think in gray plastic, it looks fine, right? When you come to paint it, that might be a little bit more obvious. You're going to get these nice crisp lines at the top to really differentiate the hair. And that's going to be really hard here because it's just a little soft. All right, I'm looking for a clear win here. Let's try these guys. So these are evil little guys that you find in like freaking tunnels towards the very beginning. The base, again, great. I do love that they're all ABS bases. They're fantastic. They sit flat. They're not, poofy or anything like that. The mini here itself, pretty good. Some soft detail, but honestly, it's pretty much how they look like. The wings here maybe look a bit fake. Now, my problem with the wing here is not even so much the design of the feathers, so they are a little cartoony there. Maybe they were, I can't remember. I don't think they were that cartoony in the game. But on the backside here, because it's so thick and there's not really a lot of texture there, there's just kind of these basic lines, and it makes it look like these like anime wing feathers versus, something a little bit more realistic. Once again, the mouth is not sculpted. That's actually kind of garbage. This is a very open mouth, very focal point of the mini, and he doesn't even have a tongue. That's really unfortunate. Again, this is where everybody's looking. This is how you make something threatening. And if he has a cartoon puppet mouth, like he's from the Muppets or something, because there's a hand in his face, he can't get too scary. Overall, sculpt design I like. There is a little bit of a nub here, right, very visible on the back. A little unfortunate that it's there. It should be very easy to clean up though, but it does mean you have to, anything I have to like touch up after the fact is just added time to work to get this to look nice, right? Simply pretty good for what they had available. I think that makes sense. I think it works fine. I actually like that this is separate, but it goes really close together, which is kind of cool. And overall, it's literally only attached on these two back ones there, which is pretty cool. Okay, there's that tray. We got another a little bit of a larger tray here, and then we got like the one with all the big minis. These are starting to get bigger though, as you can see. So there are a couple different sculpts here. So let's go ahead and go through them here. All right. So first we have 6 of these, though they're kind of spread out in the tray, which is kind of interesting. They shoved them where they could in the corners, pretty much. Again, I think it looks great. I like how skinny this is. This is a little thicker than I would like and a little droopier than I would like, so I'll have to touch up these. I suspect pretty much every sword is going to be a little bit bit thicker, a little bit blunt, and a little bit droopy. Kind of unfortunate. Again, weapon, very important part of any mini. Otherwise, this one's a little bit more boring to me. Like, he's just very static. He's just kind of standing there with his arm or his leg just slightly out. He's not like hunched over. In fact, he is so perfectly standing straight. It's impressive. That posture, like the British would be happy about that. That is proper etiquette. I bet he puts his like forks and spoons in the right place when he eats. My goodness, that is a straight back. Like literally, like there is no curvature. It is just straight from head, straight neck, straight back. And it makes it just look very unnatural, I would say, and rather boring, to be honest. Again, I think they've done a great job with these shields. They're actually quite skinny. They're clasped good on the inside. All that looks great. The detail on the armor looks great. Texture here is good. They do have that mold line problem that I think is going to be throughout the entire game. Scabbard, fine. It maybe bleeds in a little bit on this side. I'm not quite sure. Again, very, very straight though. Kind of impressive. Also, not nearly the same size of a sword. I don't know if that's normal. I'd have to look at the game itself again, but that sword is not going into that sheath. That sheath is straight, and this is like tapered, right? So just, it's not going to happen. But you know what? Whatever. Again, I'll have to do the hot water treatment on that. And again, this is straight, but then they added these ridges down. And again, another smart move to make it so that while it's solid, it doesn't look fake, right? I mean, ideally, these would end here, right? They wouldn't go all the way in the back, but practicality of the miniature, that's what you have to do. And so that, I think the texture adds a lot to making that not quite as bad. Face is fine. Yeah, detail in the armor, fine too. Just really very, very straight guy. Like, just, man, that posture. Very non-threatening, just kind of standing there. Not at ease, I guess, huh? All right. And again, kind of loosely fit in there. Okay, we got some bats. Let's look at some of these. These guys are big, so we're going to have to zoom out a little bit now. We're starting to get into bigger minis. There we go. All right. This is cool. First of all, still ABS. This is a big old hunk ABS. They do great on the plastic. A little bit of a divot there when it looks like they cleaned it up, but overall, really great. And again, from what I can tell, they consistently kind of put this towards the back, which I appreciate. It's not like right at the front of the mini. It's fairly skinny, but still on there okay. This leg is separate, this leg is separate, and there's the body. So the body, again, pretty flat that way, so it can go in there, and then everything that's going up separate, all right? Texture-wise, looks fantastic. It really does. There is a obvious mold line running across the edge. At least it's at the edge. That's hiding it, I guess, as best as you can, though it is still fairly prevalent, and you can see a lot more on some of these bits here. Let me see if maybe you can see that. There you go. So there's a mold line right there, right? And then of course all along here, and then it literally traces the whole mini, right? I haven't seen mold lines like this in years. Assembly, very, very good actually. Assembly on the head, assembly on the legs. There's maybe a little bit of more of a gap than I'd like on this one, but not too bad. The texture is fantastic on the wing. Same with the main guy here. And in fact, with how, the thickness is really good, but even still, I think there might be, I don't think he's fully ABS. He's still not quite shiny enough, I would say. But he is pretty darn shiny. So there's definitely a healthy case of ABS in there, which helps to keep it rigid and textured really well. The ears look fantastic. Face looks cool. The mouth is cool. It actually almost looks like, yeah, I think the inside of his mouth is textured. As far as I can tell, I think it is. Even has a tongue. Crazy, look at that. The one guy with the textured mouth. He's not a puppet. Looks great. I think that's awesome. Again, I love that he's not here. He's here instead of in the middle, and then he kind of angles forward so that he ends up centered, but when he connects to the base, he's over there. A lot more dynamic of a mini. Very cool. Okay. Now we do have, I think, two more. We have the mama rat here. Again, these boils will look fantastic. They'll look great. Again, there's like almost no sculpting at all inside the mouth. Very unfortunate, though at least she has a tongue. So that's great. She has a tongue and a very flat back of the mouth. So it's going to look kind of funny painted, but whatever. I guess you're going to paint it like a dark red and pray, or maybe you can even sculpt it yourself. I don't know. Again, lots of nasty boils and stuff all over, which are disgusting. The ears look great. Love that. The fur going into the ears, very cool. The tail looks awesome. Again, a little bit of a mold line, especially right here on the back of the tail there. ABS base, still great there. Even textured like down underneath here, which is actually great to see the texture kind of everywhere. I do appreciate this. Again, except the back of the mouth, apparently. But yeah, overall, very nice. I like it. We got one more here. Got this guy. Again, very dynamic sculpt here, which I really appreciate. And in fact, these guys might be okay. If they're the only ones like that and they're just like super century, sure, why not? They're like a statue. The base here is fantastic. I love when they have the base interact with the mini. So in this case, these ripples around his feet as he steps into this, fantastic. It even has this little bit, again, it's very, very faint. You probably see it. Yeah, you can see it reflected. These little ridges in the water, so not perfectly still water, just looks great. Really, really does. The bits of skull in there look fantastic. Also, very, very cool base. Love it. For the mini, again, also actually really, really good. I've been impressed. It looks like the inside of the mouth is sculpted. I see a tongue. It looks like even ridges on the top of the mouth. Love seeing that. That's great. I don't know why they're not consistent with that. Maybe they have multiple sculptors and they don't like sync up on that. I don't know. The hair is all separate and yet assembled. Looks great. There's not like any weird gaps or anything like that. Especially painted, this is going to look really, really good. The ears are cool. The blade's super cool. I don't think it's too thick because it's literally supposed to be like really thick like this. So that's cool. The fingers, all separate. Looks great. Lunging forward. I love the head tilted to the side a little bit there. This like little tabard kind of, the cloth on his legs just in general are nice and flowy. This one perhaps is a bit too, maybe these shouldn't hang quite as straight because it looks like he is definitely moving forward. They should probably flare it up a little bit, I would think. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. But I do think that's maybe a little slightly off. Even his beard hair is tapering, but then these are straight, right? I think those would taper about the same, but that's okay. That's okay. Again, I know I'm nitpicking. Hair texture looks good. It's separate from the fur. The fur looks different, so I appreciate that. Armor looks cool. I like that. The end of his tail, fantastic. It is all sculpted very nicely. Not even just texture, but actually sculpted. Yeah, overall, very cool mini. I like it. That guy's cool. All right, and that is that tray. How the heck did this guy go in there? There he goes. Okay. All right, there is that tray. We're going to put this away, however that works. There we go. Okay, now we have one more big tray here. This is where some of the big minis are. All right, so let's go ahead. Some of them like fell out, my goodness. Okay, we're gonna start with this little jerk here. This is one of the bosses you can get where there's like a chest in the final room. It's been a while, but either way, just a magic cat essentially. And yeah, the base again, really cool. All ABS. It's not wasting any, so it's filled in there, which is good. But then this is still consistent rim, which I appreciate. Looks great. Again, all the sculpting here looks good. These skulls look about the same size as what I saw in the last mini just now, so that's good. Mold line right up the front of the arms. Unfortunate that it's right there at the front. Even putting on the side may have been better, but oh well. Either way, you have to trim that up. Same with the legs. Looks like they sculpted it pretty good. Connection point doesn't look too awkward with its butt sitting on the floor like that. Tail looks cool. I love that it's up. This rim around the head is great. It means the head's a separate mold. Of course, the eyes there look awesome. Super cool. Same with the ears. They're like weird, gross, disgusting. Again, these mold lines are crazy. Look at my goodness. Do you see this mold line right here? On the side here? That's a wild mold line. Yeah, same here. It's like almost like offset. Crazy. Cape looks great. Sword looks cool. It's just fine. Again, it's supposed to be almost like a statue kind of thing. So overall, very cool magic mini that I think they overall sculpted quite well. But these mold lines are killing it. I think their quality is much better than their mold lines. If that makes any sense. All right, let's see. I don't know how he fit in either. All right, get in there. Let's look at the first boss to kill you that you don't know about, right? You first get out there, you see this guy roaming around like crap, he looks hard, and then you find out, oh, wow, he actually is. Again, mold line all the way down the side. Very unfortunate. This is ABS, by the way. You can see how rigid it is like that. And yet even it has this kind of crazy mold line there. One interesting thing is that he's completely hollow. So that horse is like completely fake, right? This is just a wrapping. Otherwise, he is like legitimately all the way up to here hollow. I think it looks fine, right? Because you're going to look at him like this. But if you were to pick it up and paint it or anything like that, you do quickly see the inside and it's completely flat, right? It's not even meant for you to look at. So this only looks good like this, which is, again, that's how you're playing it. But if you pick him up, that side looks kind of okay. But from this side, you instantly see this like really flat part there. Which is okay, just means it's not like a super show piece, right? That you would like paint outside of this and then have people look up and be like, wow, that's amazing. A little bit of filler here. This is kind of interesting. So the texture on these are fantastic. The legs of the horse look legitimate. But then there's this bit right here that I don't think they caught. Again, this is something that often happens when you hand it to the factory. In other words, perhaps they sculpted it where this was separate and it was like stuck right there, right? And there was a little bit of gap there. And then when you give it to the factory makes some adjustments to make it actually printable, which is very important, and they know their printing techniques. So sometimes their artists will do something like this and then just fill it in. And that's what it looks like it is. It's just almost completely flat, just kind of filled in there. This should have been another one of these. It looks like there is a line there, but not the side lines, right? So instead they like texturing that. And so you need somebody after the factory kind of takes a look at everything to really kind of look at these. And again, this is exactly what I do with my consulting, because when it comes to looking at the miniature in a board game, totally fine. But if you want painters to love you and like adore your stuff, and you want like with a really high quality and the best quality you can get, just one quick pass to catch stuff like this and get that texture there really helps. Because as a painter, it's just gonna look smooth, all this texture, all this cool. And then like, do you paint it like this but a flat one, or do you paint it like the horse and make it have like a wart there? Like I don't know what you do. Probably paint it like this and then just deal with it. Additionally, you could even add some green stuff. I know some people even go to that detail to get those little slides, but either way, too smooth there. Thickness here is great. I do love the overhang that they have on this. That's actually quite good. However, it's not perfect. So you can see here, for instance, I know I'm getting a little detailed here. Right here and right here, you can see that flat part here without this. If this had been overhanged just a slightly more, or if this had been nicked up, you wouldn't see it. But because it's the smooth, you actually see that smooth right here and right here. So you see it here, here, here. Tiny bit there. It looks like here. And that's maybe the last bit, is that little bit right there. Again, that you can actually cut up. And this is kind of what you do. If you're a painter, what you're going to do is you're going to get your X-Acto knife and you're going to cut little divots out there. But ideally, it's just sculpted super well to begin with. The bottom of the hoof looks good. I do like that. That's great. Again, the base is fantastic. The armor on the horse, great. The fact that the horse's mouth is open, I love. Though, again, completely untextured. No teeth, no nothing. The only texture in there is a mold line. Oh, man, but you got some great, cool-looking texture here. Again, the assembly all looks great. The armor here's neat. Here's another problem. There's some warping here. So because this is made as a digital file, they used to, back in the day, they would actually use clay to make these like sculpts, right? But that's long gone. People don't really mold that way anymore. Now it's all digital. And when it's digital, stuff can warp inside of each other. It's like clipping, essentially, right? I'm sure you've seen that in games, right? Where their arms like go through something, or their hair goes through their hat or something like that. In this case, his saddle is going through his leg. So you're going to see his leg here, and you see the saddle comes all the way almost to the edge, where his leg is about that thick there, or this is warping inside of his leg, and that's really what's happening there, right? They have him sculpted, they put him on the horse, it clips through, and they don't adjust it. This should have been adjusted to be depressed, or the leg to come out more, one or the other, but instead neither happened. And you kind of see that here too, where again, it's just half of his leg going through there, perhaps accurate to the game. Maybe they wanted to be like, you know what, in the game he clips, and so we're going to clip him there. I doubt that's the case, though. Man, the texture on this blade is super cool. I love that. I love the swirl and everything. All of his armor is super neat. His cape is fantastic. It's not too thick. I appreciate that. It comes to a nice kind of skinnier tip here. And the shield is amazing. Very, very cool. So, yeah, pros and cons, right? They're so close to greatness. SFG, man, you want to give it one more pass? It looked great. Okay, we got two of these guys. So there are some more cat people here. Again, texture, fantastic on the skin. Love that. Assembly is okay. It's more than okay. I think painted that would look fine. And then on the side, it looks great too. Again, you do get mold lines. That's pretty much everywhere. And actually, it looks like this drooped a ton. So this should probably be straight. I'm assuming like this one, which is also not straight. It needs to be more like that. It's a little up. So yeah, pretty much every weapon here is going to need some kind of like treatment. It's going to take some work to get this looking the way I want it to. But overall, there are some really good design choices too. Again, not filling in. This is nice. The little ridge here. So you see how they have this horn, right? And instead of it being flat, same with this one, they put that little bit of ridge there. And that ridge really allows you to then paint this like it's a solid tooth tusk, as opposed to something that's more just like a fake. There's not quite the ridge there, but actually I think this works too, because it looks like it kind of goes into that. And there's a little ridge on the side. Either way, it looks a lot more natural. It's not just flat, right? Texture on here, fantastic. Looks beautiful. Love that. That's super cool. The fur looks really nice. I dig that as well. The overall sculpt is great. I love that they are overhanging the base, so the base ends here. Very aggressive posture doing that. The inside of the mouth is fully sculpted. Again, what the difference is, they're not very consistent here. They need to get all their sculptures on the same page, and that same page should be sculpted inside of the mouth. Again, focal point of the mini, you want it to look great. Ridges on the top, tongue on the bottom, teeth fully sculpted. That's what I want to see. This even has a hint of some gum line. Very cool. Yeah, these are nice. I like them. You get 2 of them. All right, we got 2 more here. Or 3 minis total, so you get 2 of these guys. These are big guys indeed. Looking fantastic. So again, the base, great as always. They do a great job with the base. Very happy with that. I love how he's up and, so again, he's also fairly static, though this is kind of how they are unless they're pulling something. But snarling up, very good. What's not very good is the fact that, once again, whatever sculptor they have that didn't get the same memo or was not happy with their pay, or they already gave their 2 weeks in, or I don't know what, but either way, no sculpting on the top again. So again, we got a tongue, so that's nice. But we have no sculpting in the top at all. As far as I can tell, at least what made it to the final production plastic, it is completely smooth there, which again, focal point, especially here, it's even angled up at the viewer. It would have been nice to really show that some love. This hair is great. Love that. The eyes look great. I love how you can see the motion right there. I love that it's not just flat on the shoulders and stuff here. That's great. Texture on the skin is fantastic. The legs, really, really good. Simply onto the base, very nice. Love that. Toenails, everything like that looks good. A little bit of a mold line here. Even has some that's like coming up. And again, these like intestines and other like weird nasty junk, because you can see the inside of them. Very cool. And the blade, actually like great. It comes to a nice point, not too thick on the side. Looking great. What a cool mini. I actually really like that one. And then finally, we have the boss. All right, here we are. Again, huge base here. Bigger than all the others, that's for sure. Again, love the topography where this is going up. I think that's fantastic. Again, this is all, like, none of this is filled in. It's all separate because the legs are separate from this. This was plopped on top. Again, some assembly here too. Pretty good assembly. I'm okay with that. Weapon, nice and straight. I do appreciate that. Face looks great. Again, the collar, look how skinny that is. It looks fantastic. Very good there. Again, love the texture. Love the texture. It's definitely got that Elden Ring. It's almost like the cloak you see them use in The Lord of the Rings when they hide and it looks like a rock. It kind of has that feel to it. You could tell it's almost like dirty and slightly rigid fabric. You can even see like the sewing weave. Just super cool. Again, fur on the hand looks good there. Whatever the heck this junk is that I never really figured out looks great and disgusting and weird. So yeah, good job on that. Overall, very cool. Love this. Love this collar. Very cool. All right. That is it for the core game. Now we have 2 expansions plus a little small one with just a mini in it. So let's go on and dive into those. All right. Now we got the Limgrave Depths. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one. I believe this is the prequel to the main story. And that's what I got. Again, there's a lot more out there, obviously. And if I like the game, I will buy it from them at a convention, or I'll buy it from them online, or I'll buy it from them from a local gaming store. Or worst case scenario, though I've done this before, like with Conan and some other campaigns that I've missed, I'll buy them from some other backer. That's what Board Game Geek Marketplace and eBay are for, right? All right, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Again, love the boxes, of course. That's fantastic. Be even great if that's actually the location they're showing. Tiny little rule book here. We'll take a quick look here, just to kind of see what's going on here. I think it's because this is actually oh no, because it's not the full rule book. So expansion, and then it has the places for it. So this is really the only rule there, and then it's just the actual stuff, right? So that's what that is. Very similar, where they have a row here plus the books. So there's the encounter book A, encounter book B, encounter book C, and Encounter Book D. That's for all of the different players, I believe. If I remember correctly, that's how it works. Though maybe not. Looks like we got some minis in there. Some minis here. Some cards. The cards probably look about the same. I'm not too concerned about that. Tiles, same thing. And as you can see, this guy's like out. Like they're all of them are out, right? Like so, this guy's out. This guy's out. Like all of them are not in there, right? So locking didn't even work. Again, it's these flat tops. They're just kind of rough with that for that. All right, so look at some minis. We got some skeletons. Let's zoom in. Not too much. Okay. Now I will say this skeleton to me looks a bit cartoonish, and if I was to say why, it would be because of how smooth it is. So, first of all, I mean, it's cool. I like the base. That looks great, right? The little tiny shield and all that. Fine, okay. Even the blade, a little thick, but you know what? Whatever. If he wants a potato blade that's not sharp at all, that's fine. But I think it's the smoothness of the joints here, right? So, for instance, how smooth this is connected, or the soft details here, or even the ribs and the inside of that being fairly filled out, right? Same with around the neck, filled out here, right? To make it work as a sculpt, obviously. But I think the softness, see, even like how soft of a stop to each of the bones are. The nubs are extremely soft. I think kind of makes it, I don't know, a little World of Warcrafty. If I was to give like a Blizzard style, like before Diablo 4, so like Diablo 3, Warcraft, all that kind of stuff, where they had like, just a little bit more cartoony of a look to it. They're fine. They're okay. They just don't actually seem very threatening to me. It just, I don't know. You let me know. Does he look threatening to you? He looks kind of goofy, maybe I don't recall how they look like, but all I know is I pretty much was afraid of every monster in Elden Ring, so I'm not really getting afraid from that guy. Oh, this visually, come on. This is like not coming off. Is it taped? Oh, okay. All right, I'm upset now. I hate tape. I really hate tape. First of all, it's ugly. It gets sticky, or you can't take it off or whatever. I have to take the whole tray off now. It's all heavy and awkward. So I can cut this, and then I'm just going to have this ugly tape on the side. If I peel it off instead of cut it, I'm going to have this nasty residue on the side. This tape is not even, like, actually clear. Like when you look at it, it's, like, brown. I don't know where these factories get this tape, but I actively hate it. You know what doesn't look good? That looks like garbage, right? This, now I got, like, a little piece hanging off. And if I remove this, I'm just going to have this stickiness there. I hate tape. Either your locks work or they don't. But the tape is something I do not like. It just, it annoys me. I'm glad none of the others have had that so far. All right, now I got to pick this whole heavy thing back up. Put it back in this box. And try and pretend that never happened. All right, let's take a look at the people. Start out with this guy. Yeah, good luck, buddy. You got nothing. You got nothing. This guy can dodge roll super fast, though. So, again, base looks great, of course. The muscle definition looks great. Love that. Even the little cloth he does have, I think, is sculpted quite well. Looks like the ridges are pretty much there. Maybe a little bit softer on this side, but nothing too bad. The wood texture on the club actually came out pretty good. I like that. I like the little droopy rope here. And even the ponytail. With a little bit tie-in on the back, it just adds at least some level of interest there. Otherwise, very basic face, right? Which is, again, I think is actually fitting for their character creators. There's not a lot to talk about that guy. Yeah, and he looks fine. Didn't even notice any crazy mold lines. This guy, look at the dynamics, the difference between these two. It's crazy. All right. So what do we have here? All the way in the back of the base, right? Just like super far back there. Again, cape, good thickness. I appreciate that. Looks like the leg is defined all the way up. I appreciate that. The blades, not too bad. They kind of go to a point on the side. On the back, though, that you can see how thick they really are, because they're like really thick. And The shape is cool, though. I do like that. It's not too bent or anything, so that's nice. The face being turned to the side is interesting. It'll be more noticeable when you paint it, actually. Detail on the robes look great. I don't know what's going on here. I suspect this is a sword, but it is so flat that it may as well not exist. It looks funny, actually. It looks like the dress is like almost being pulled over top of it, and what you're getting is that impression like through a sheet. I don't know why they made it so skinny, but that is like thinner than hair, like right here. It's practically non-existent. That is a very odd. This one's a little bit better. At least on this side, it's thicker. This isn't really thick on either side. This side's a little bit thicker, but then it gets really skinny again here. Yeah, really unfortunate. That did not show up well. The sleeve hanging down like that looks super cool. I dig that. Love that there's a gap there. Assembly looks great. Yeah, overall, a very cool mini. Very much a board game mini, and there's definitely some issue there still, right? Again, this skinniness really bothersome. Otherwise, fairly okay. That I think really that's pretty much my biggest point there. Just I don't know if there's some warping or if they just need to thicken it or what. And you have this guy who's awesome, very very tall. Love it. This honestly, seeing this character. Hello, where's his arm? Found his arm. Okay. All right. Yeah, so they were apparently loose enough to where his arm broke. So that'll have to be glued. That is like a hardcore break too. That's like a break. That is impressive. All right. So anyway, it should be like that. Okay. Now I'm going to take that off for now. Here, let's review the sword. The sword's cool. I do like it. Nice and actually fairly straight, just maybe slightly bendy. It is a little bendy though. You definitely could bend it. It's not the best plastic in the world. Detail level wise looks good though. And this didn't bend or anything, which is great. And at least it's a fairly clean break. Okay. Now for the rest of them, what I was going to say is this character was what really sold me in on the game, just because of the wolf face is super cool. So interesting enough though, it looks like there was maybe some pressure. So it turns lighter color when it gets bent, and I see there's some lighter color even here in the nose, which is kind of interesting, like it's been nicked or something like that. Again, he's taking up pretty much more base than he has, which is kind of cool actually. Like I really dig that. His fur cloak looks fantastic, of course. No surprise there. On both the pelt part of it and then the skin part of it. Detail wise on his armor looks great. All the straps on his leg armor looks good, and his face looks cool too. And again, he is a cool sculpt, right? I mean, like it's just a fun kind of at ease kind of thing. And it's actually like you have to go through this whole song and dance to even like see him in the game, but totally worth it. Very cool. I will glue him later. Okay, what else we got? Let's go and take a look at the more normal bears. Here's normal bear, right? Looking like a bear. Texture looks fantastic. I'm not even seeing any softness like I did with the wolf. It looks like it's textured everywhere quite well. So that's nice to see. I really dig that. Looking great. Texture all around, even on the bottom. Fantastic. Really, really like that. Looks great. One thing, and I suspect that this was sculpted with the mini in mind, because his paw perfectly is in shape with where the rocks stop. I would have preferred them to stop beforehand, so it wasn't so obvious that like the you get what I'm saying. It's too perfect. That is the rocks fit like a glove around his paw. That just happens to be there. Either make it go out or make it stop before. Either way, don't line it right up to the paw. Just a general kind of design advice from me anyway, for whatever my 2 cents are worth. All right, snarling face, mold line right across the nose. Of course, they'd be hard pressed to find a mold space not right at the focal point of the mini. Is a sculpted tongue, and it looks like semi-sculpted mouth. It looks like the back of the teeth are there, but then it does look pretty smooth back there. However, it is aimed down. It is a little bit smaller. I'm a little bit more okay with that. Yeah, otherwise, yeah, very cool. I like his little tail. It's cute. But then we got the big ones. And I know everybody was like, oh, that looks awkward. It's because, trust me, it does in the game too. These bears are really weird. Okay, so here is the bear that they have. Look at the crack on that, man. That is fantastic. These bases are so freaking nice. Being ABS, love it, love it. Looks crisp. Fairly good assembly. There's a little bit of a gap here. Maybe could have pressed down a little bit more or a little bit more forward or anything like that. But overall, very good there. All the fur looks pretty good. Again, getting the mold line not to be visible, extremely hard when they're like this, of course. The one advice that I typically have that wasn't really followed here, and that's because they never asked, but this is what I typically give, is try and make it to where it doesn't cut through fur, right? In other words, if some fur strands end here and then start here, it looks a lot better than this strand going all the way through and then being broken up. Does that make sense? So to make this less noticeable, you can normally just do a little bit of a divot here on the actual texture of the skin. The other thing you can do is when you are designing it, add a little bit of a layer, kind of like you do pants where there's a little bit of an overhang. You can do that as well. But I typically like, especially when it's supposed to be just smooth like this, right? That you just don't, you see how they like cut the fur in half there? That's what you don't want to do, right? That makes it look as obvious as possible. Again, not that I think they did a pretty good job with it, and they did some kind of ridge here. I'm not exactly sure what the attempt was here, but it definitely didn't stop any of these strands from just going straight through it and getting cut off. This is easiest on arms and stuff because you can have them like follow like different paths, right? So that's normally okay, and probably why this looks a little bit. But again, see like this strand here. Just cut in the middle. If this had started one, this had ended one, they didn't line up so you could tell that they were different hairs. Actually, I think would have assembled a bit better. Either way, we got this big old chest here and the tiny head, right? They're weird looking. They're weird looking in the game. I don't know who designed something like this, but whatever. It's there. The paws look great though. You get 2 of those. All right. Let's see what else. We got 2 more here. We got the kind of dog one. The dog boss kind of guy. He's super cool. Love it, love it. His thing is, his like little rod thing is bent though, so I have to do the hot water treatment on that. Texture on the skin, fantastic. I love the little leatheriness there. The little doodads and wrappings and stuff on his armor look fantastic. His really long like toe, feet stuff, disgusting, looks great. Bottom of his feet look fantastic. Even the thickness here looks great. Ridges here look great. Cloak looks great. The texture on his cloak is actually like darn impressive. It looks so good. That'll paint up really, really well. Assembly looks good. The crown looks nice. I don't even really see too much of it bent or anything like that. And again, the mouth is kind of eh. But overall, very, very cool. I will have to fix that bitting though. Love the texture on that cloak though. My goodness. On like the top part. All right. Let's see if I can't fit him in. Like, okay. Goes like, okay. All right. Last one here. Again, what a unique enemy. Love the head. I think that looks great. The whole weapon looks fantastic. I really dig that. The like club part of it looks fantastic. The wrappings with like the barbed wire here look great. Really, really good. This cloak here a little bit thicker than I would have anticipated, but okay. Sculpted on the inside on here, which is nice. I dig that. The texture on the skin looks good. There's a mold line there. Getting tired of saying that. The cloak here thickness looks really, really good. I do appreciate that. The textures on the inside and the outside, these boils, the lines here, all of that looks good. This is a cool mini. Nice deep cuts here. Looks fantastic. What a cool mini. I like them. All right. Now, all we have is Iron Fist Alexander, which is an important one to get. This is important. So we definitely want to get this one. Though, I will say, probably one of the easier ones to like 3D print, just because there's so many different, because he's so popular, right? That I imagine a lot of people have sculpted him, perhaps more than some of the other ones. But you're going to get, I think, more than just a mini here, too, which is important to note. It's a tuck box, which means I bent it and broke it opening up. I hate tuck boxes. They're garbage. But I'll probably fit this into one of the boxes anyway. So there is what you're really buying here. Besides just the mini. The mini's cool, but again, could 3D print it. But the cards, right? So here's how to integrate him into the game. And then you have the mini. So let's open her up and take a look. Love it. I love it. Classic pose. Arms folded here. Again, they look great. Nice and rocky. Oh, this is interesting. Look at that. What is that? Wild. Okay. Base is great. Again, pure ABS. Looks fantastic. Lid on looks fantastic. Nice and sealed there. Haven't popped it yet. The texture all around. Great on top. Fantastic. He's gonna look so cool painted. It's amazing. Love his little legs coming out here. What a great guy. And what a great way to end this unboxing. Guys, there was a lot more available than just this. It didn't even cover all of the game. I definitely am going to get it all if this is something that I'm really passionate about and I'm really interested in, because I'm sure they're going to keep adding to it. SSG has a good job supporting their games, so I'm sure if nothing else at retail we'll see more of. So I'm excited for it. I'm excited to get some time into it because the video game was awesome. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, of course. Or if you'd like to see anything else, any more coverage on it, let me know. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Take care, guys. Bye.